Hey everyone, my name is Svenja, and we are back again with another episode of the Opinionated thoughtbotter. With me today is Moses, and we will talk for the next 30 minutes or so about an opinion you have. Before we do that, can you say a few words about yourself?
Hi, my name is Moses Amama. I'm a senior product designer here at thoughtbot. I am based in Nigeria, and yeah, that's me.
What's the temperature like in Nigeria?
It's currently about like 28, 27, 28 degrees where I am, degrees Celsius. And
That's good.
that it well, it is relative. Compared compared to you, that's probably very hard because I learned the humidity is like different. So 28 degrees
Yes.
Celsius for you would actually be hotter than 28 degrees Celsius for me. And that's something I learned this week, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we have around, I think, 39 degrees at the moment, and then
Mm.
I don't know when it will go down.
Uh,
But we are not here to talk about the weather.
yeah.
Uh, no, fun. What's your opinion?
Yeah, my opinion is that AI designs all look the same, and that's not going to get better as the models improve.
Okay, here's the thing. Usually, I would heavily agree with you because you and like lots of people out there and so forth, they know my stand on AI. But I do want to make this episode a little bit differently, and I do want to put myself in the shoes of a person who really, really likes using AI for design. So let's see if I will succeed with that. I'm not sure. I will try my best. Yeah. So first of all, what makes you say that AI design all looks the same?
I mean, like, pick up five vibe coded websites, for instance. I can almost tell you, like, if you open them on your tab right now, and I'm not looking at it, I can almost tell you five patterns or five components that you would definitely find in all of them.
Tell me. Tell me the
Now,
five ones.
the first one is you would see a weird gradient, so to say. There would be some form of gradient, and if a brand color or if a direction is not given towards color, that gradient is most likely going to be purplish. Um, you would see probably something like a pill button or maybe not a button, like a pill tag that has like a dot, right? And you would potentially see some weird copy and probably a lot of like glass morphism that has not been done properly, without like attention being paid to accessibility and contrast. And then one thing that I have found reoccurring quite recently, that maybe as a designer is a little bit annoying, is there is this there's this font, there's this like typography choice that is being made, that I've seen in many websites these days, that has like a bit of the kerning is just weird, and there's just seems to be like a lot of spacing. I've seen it in documents, I've seen it in like websites, I've seen it in mobile apps, and it's just it's just a little difficult to look at.
Okay, maybe. But what if I tell the AI tool? We will speak about AI tools later. But what if
Mhm,
I tell the AI tool that it should be different to all the other website it generated
mhm,
before? Like I want
mhm,
to make it very stand out.
mhm,
And now that I know, okay, I would give in or prompt use these use your points that you just like made. I would implement it as, or I would use them in my prompt to not fall for that.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
why wouldn't
So
I do that?
So if you go that route, it's it probably would give you something a little different from some of the things that I've sort of like highlighted earlier. But the problem with the mod AI and the problem with the model is that it would often pick the most probable choice. It would try because it's logical, right? So it will always try to make the logical choice, the most probable choice in what sort of like solves the problem, in what gets it done. So when you say avoid this, avoid that, uh, make this website or make this user interface different from anything um, that is typically made with AI, it's still going to default to the next probable choice. All right. Now, the problem with that is when it keeps defaulting to the next probable choice, it's missing it's missing something unique that designers would often bring to your project that makes when you look at a user interface, when you look at a mobile app and it feels like this product has personality, this product has soul, right? What gets us to that point where you can actually users and whoever is looking at a product can feel like there's a bit of personality and there's a bit of soul here is the fact that we don't always make the next obvious or the next probable choice when we're designing.
Okay, I'm a client. I want to design a new product. Dog shampoo. Let's create
Okay.
a new dog shampoo. I did obvious choice.
Yeah.
So I would just like go ahead, find, for example, I do need a logo.
Hmm.
If I would go ahead, find a AI, I don't want to use a generator, but like any fancy AI tool.
Hmm.
I would say, okay, I do want to create a new dog shampoo product, and I do
Hmm.
need a logo.
Hmm.
So to put it on my website or like T-shirts, my dog can wear it. What would be the difference between when I asked the AI in coming up with a design for my logo, or in comparison, if I hire an experienced designer?
Okay. So if, for instance, and let's just say you're the founder of Dog Shampoo, that means you would go to your favorite LLM tool or logo generator, and you would tell it, I want to create, uh, I want to create a logo for my new product, and it's called Dog Shampoo. I My brand color is say um, purple. Okay, let me know it's purple this time around.
Yes, purple. Yeah.
I've
You can
already said
also
purple
ask
is a
me the
giveaway.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the brand color for Dog Shampoo?
Black.
Black. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's say black is the primary color. What's your accent color, or what's the secondary color?
I wouldn't even think about that when I asked LLM. So,
Yeah.
okay. Now I do need to see an experienced designer to ask the right questions to the LLM. But imagine, like, I know all that. Okay, I do have a secondary color, or what? What do you mean? Second, to black, it would be pink.
Pink. Good. So that's your primary color. That's your secondary color, right? And you feed a prompt, and you probably ask the LLM to generate you like logos for your dog shampoo product line, and that's it, right? You hit enter, and you wait for it to come up with uh, whatever it wants to come up with, and you probably try to start maybe iterating on that based on what you've seen. But if you
Yeah.
were speaking to an experienced designer, they would potentially try to hear the backstory and the context about why you want to create your own dog shampoo, for instance.
Okay, do it.
You know,
Be the
so
experienced designer. Yeah.
Okay, so I would ask you now, like, why do you want to create your own dog shampoo? What inspired you to create your own dog shampoo?
My dog owner has skin condition, and I can't use my shampoo because it's not good for dogs.
Mhm.
I'm also vegan, and it's important to me that I know the ingredients of the product I use. The name should also be somehow related to owner. And yes, that's the backstory. I do want to find or create a healthy product for my dog.
Okay. Now that's a lot. That's very good context there. But even before I come back to the context, I want to ask you another question around if you go to like the store, um, why are the dog shampoos currently in the stores not appealing to you?
Oh, good question. Again, also the skin conditions is made up, but I would assume if I would look for a product, I don't think it's very obvious that they are vegan. I don't know if they are tested on animals, which I'm also against. I never heard of the brand. That might be something. They don't, yeah, I don't trust them. I think trust is the biggest factor. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, the last question before I kind of like do my thing. Um, what would you say in terms of, say, the brand feel? Uh, let's say on a let's put it on a scale of 1 to 5, right? 5 being very playful, and say 1 being very serious. Where would you place it?
3,
3. Okay. All right.
maybe.
So, okay, 3.
It's just
Now,
like because Ona jumps around, so and she is a playful dog. Yeah.
awesome. Now, what has happened with these 3 questions? And these are just like, and I've tried to keep them very short, but these 3 questions are questions that I would typically ask as a designer um, when I'm sort of like engaging with anyone who wants to do design, any design related tasks, be it designing the user interface or coming up with a logo. Because the first question now has now gotten helped me to understand um, the context and why you really want to do what you want to do, and why you want to sort of like come up with your own dog shampoo. The second question has um, gotten me to understand the things that matter to you, um, and the reason why no other choice in the market right now appeals to you. And the third one has given me a bit of like insight into the personality you want to communicate with the logo. All right. Now, when I put all
I
this
love it.
together, when I put all this together, it helps me to start thinking about like how can I come up with something that represents not just that it's not just obvious that this is dog shampoo, but also carries the story and the context for which you wanted to create the product in the first place, and also the backstory of Ona. Like that is it, there are a lot of things I would potentially you described Ona being playful, and that's why like the positioning is like you pick that number on the positioning scale. Those are all the things that I would sort of like explore as a designer. And the thing is, when you are talking when I'm speaking with like people who want to come up with like products and like logos like yourself, in many cases some of the questions we ask kind of like helps you to think more about your product and more about the direction you want to go. And I see this every time, like especially when I'm on a design
I
sprint.
really felt it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
really
know
felt it. Yeah.
I'm on a design sprint, and the founder is often an expert in the context for the product that they want to build. So when I approach design sprints, I also approach it with the perspective that I want to learn. I want to learn from you. I want to learn why you believe this product is special, why you want to go on this journey, right? So most of the questions I'm asking is also coming from the perspective of, oh, I want to learn your context. Okay. And if the question is able to get you to think about something that you've not thought about before, then even better. We get to learn together. All right. Now,
I so love that.
these are all
No,
the
no, no. I'm
things,
pro. I'm pro AI. I'm pro AI. Just
these are all the things that helps us kind of like find the unique thing or the unique choice and the decision that we need to make to bring some soul and to bring some unique direction and some unique perspectives to like brand identity designs or like product designs, for instance, that makes you look at a product or a logo and just feel drawn to it for specific reasons.
okay. I do get the point, but I'm still pro AI. Um, just kidding. No, I do. Yeah, I think it makes it quite clear. How confident are you that you can reveal, if you would have a collection of designs,
Mhm.
reveal like AI design and non-AI design? Well, like
Mm.
let's say, like I do think there's a difference between an experienced designer and AI. So,
Mm.
do you think you would be able to? I don't have anything prepared, so don't. You just like can say 100%, but yeah.
So when I look at a website that is designed by AI,
Hmm.
on average, it currently takes me, I think, less than 2 seconds. Yeah, it takes me less than
What?
two
Okay.
seconds to to spot something that is like AI designed. It may take a little longer if an experienced designer has sort of like sat with it, and I traded on
Yes.
it. But if an experienced designer have sat with it and I traded on it, then it's not AI designed anymore. Because at that point, the designer has brought in like their tastes, their judgment, and has
Okay.
made decisions.
Before we go into that direction, do you think that the latest Spotify logo that was up for a bit of time, do you know that? Do you think it was AI generated?
Okay, to be fair, I probably have not seen the latest Spotify logo.
Oh, it's back to it's
Is
back to normal. Um,
Okay, okay. Uh, yeah,
okay, you haven't seen it.
I
Okay,
didn't
don't worry.
spot that logo. I probably missed it, but I'm more of like a YouTube music person, so maybe that was why I
Okay.
missed it.
Do you have any logo or website that you say, oh, that's clearly made by AI that you want to get off your chest?
Like, not to bring any brand in the middle of this, but there is sort of like in the Nigerian like tech ecosystem, there is this sort of like one of the leading companies did a rebrand of their website, and at the first glance, it like I was able to tell, and not just me, like a lot of people in the community were able to tell that like this was um, AI generated, and the argument is this, that it may be more obvious to a designer to spot that something is AI generated than to a non-designer. And the argument would be that users just care that it works, right? But the problem is, again, when I looked at that website, it's that it looked like 10 other websites that I've seen with the same
Yeah. Okay.
patterns.
Mm.
you know and yes, users care that it works, but that is essentially for the first few times they use it.
I do gonna create websites now with AI, and then I just like gonna let you. I gonna test you afterwards. I will
Okay,
stop the timing.
awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
but the product now looks like 10 other like products, and that means the company is missing a unique opportunity for differentiation. All
Yeah.
right. And one thing to also say is, I'm actually more pro AI than I sound. But yeah, I'm more pro AI than I sound. But I think at the moment, AI designs are the flaw, you know, and yeah, it works, but you don't want to, even if it's okay, maybe, I don't really agree, but even if it's okay to launch with your visual identity and your user interfaces at the level where it is the base, like the floor, I think we owe it to our users and the users that we serve to invest the time, the attention, and the detail that it takes to improve it and to get it from that point where it is the floor to approaching the ceiling and bringing out like a mind-blowing user experience, that they would be that they would enjoy and be proud to use.
I love that. Now is the time to be actually not against AI, even if I wouldn't have faked it like my prior AI stand.
Uh,
How did I make? How did I do it? No.
you did well. You did well,
Thank
actually.
you.
So interestingly, I've been looking for a good example of what we're talking about. So we had two AI generated logos, and
Hmm.
the logo that the client ended up going with where was the one Ferdy and I sort of like contributed to and worked on. So
Hmm.
that's a clear example. And even in the user interface
I like
choices,
that.
I'm putting it in the blog post I'm putting out where I had AI generate a screen. I gave it the brand guide. So I needed it to have as much context as I had when I started working on the designs. And I had it sort of like generate something. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you if you use AI tools, like in general, in
okay.
your daily, and
Okay.
what kind of what do you use?
Now, I'm not entirely against AI. I think it works for people who want to put out things like really quickly. I don't really agree with that, but I think AI design at the moment is the flaw. And it takes an experienced designer to be able to get it from that point to get into what I would refer to as maybe the ceiling. And that is because we owe it to the users and to the customer base that we serve to invest the level of attention, the level of time, and the level of sort of like thoughts and judgment that it takes to move the user interface and the experience that they have from something that just works to something that it's delightful and it's just great to use.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask you because you use AI. I wanted to know how you use it, what kind of tools you use, and yeah.
Okay. Now, interestingly, because I'm a designer who leans a little more on the technical side, um, I've I've also like I tend to use AI to sort of like see what's possible, like, and I just made reference to the floors and the ceilings, and I give it as much context as I can, within the scope that I'm allowed to, of course, and I try to see what it's able to come up with, because for me it has solved the blank problem um, pretty well for me. So it gives me this bunch of directions that I look at. Sometimes I probably build on the directions. Sometimes the directions just show me very quickly that, oh, what I was thinking could work is not going to work. So I learned to sort of like avoid it, and all. Now that I've seen that work really well in a recent project that I'm on, where it's a route discovery product, for runners, and again, I had AI sort of like just make an attempt to bring out the user interface, and it brought out like a couple of things that maybe works. You can put in the distance you want to run. There are some controls, and of course, the gradient was there.
Of
the,
course.
the gradient was there, right? But we thought about designers, because we had already worked on the brand, and we had come to discover that this product is going to be used predominantly under the sunlight. And we made the decision that, okay, let's not use white. Let's go with like sort of like a cream color, a beige color, because that works better in sunlight, And those were the reason behind the color choices that we used. So we used sort of like the forest green to also depict the context that it would be used in. We used this like burnt yellow color because that works, like the contrast with that button and on the background would be great. And we had those contexts in the brand guide. And I supplied the brand guide to be able to give AI the best chance of creating something amazing. But what happened was, yes, it applied the background color, but where the elements needed to be, it also gave it like a white background again. You see, so it takes us back to what I said earlier about it would always make the next obvious and probable choice. All right.
Yeah.
And the things that make products unique is that the designer is able to look for that one single unusual thing that they can try and they can do on this user interface that makes it special. So, for instance, on this user interface, we for the selector we didn't use like a tab where you can tap multiple times to sort of like increase the number of distance you want to run. We use something like a scroller, like a screw. In implementation, when you are sort of like scrolling through the screw and you're sort of like scrolling it up, the numbers increase, down the number decreases. And this is it. The screw makes like a bit of a screwing sound when you're doing that. So that tiny bit of delighter that we added for the user. I remember the first time I used it, I maybe spent a lot of time just like scrolling up and down because of that sound it was bringing. Now that level of context essentially is one of the reasons that I sort of like had this opinion in the first place. But again, I've gone on a tangent. But coming
But
back,
did you show the client different versions?
yeah, we did. We did. And
Did you show them AI generated stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
we did. And yeah, the client went with the one like thoughtbot designers worked on, obviously. Um, but interestingly, that did not just happen with the user interface, that also happened with the logo. While we were on the brand sprint, the product manager, shout out Betten, the product manager on the product sort of like tried to see what AI could bring out. And because we're talking about route discovery, right? And it brought out something that I think anybody would consider decent because it kind of like mimicked like routes and all that. But that's the problem. It was generic. That could be any running app, for instance. That could even be any like abstract logo. But what we came up with, the name of the product starts with an M. So what we came up with was that we took that first M and shaped it in such a way that it represented like a route, right? And
Oh, I see. Yes.
and
Yes.
that formed the logo symbol for us, right? And
I love
even
it.
when we wrote the name of the product in text, there was an I. Now, the obvious thing AI would do with the I is that it would place the dot on the I the way it's supposed to be, because that's the right thing to
Yes.
do.
Yes, of
But
course.
what we did as designers was that we tilted the I to a 45-degree angle. And yeah, tilting it to the 45-degree angle made it align better with the logo symbol, such that when you have the name of the product and the logo symbol side by side, it's not going to feel off. All right. Now that tiny decision we took alone is like it made it sort of like just sit well together and gave it the difference. Like those tiny
Be
decisions,
unique.
yeah, those
Yes.
tiny decisions are the work of experienced designers, So
So whoever who is listening to know, and if you know the brand we are talking about, the product we are talking about, please paste it into the comments. I'm curious if someone figures it out.
yeah, but for me, in terms of exploration, in terms of prototyping, I use Claude AI a lot. And I kind of like I'm able to sort of like quickly even create layouts for just see different layouts of what I want it to look like and see maybe first versions. But in every in for the best designs that I've come up with in the last like several months, for every one of them, I've gotten to a point where I've had to sort of be like, okay, thank you very much. And I take the explorations back to Figma and I sit there and I do the things that I would do as a designer to move it from being this very generic user interface to being something that would actually resonate and be delightful for users.
Perfect finishing. That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Moses. It was really, really nice. Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think, if you agree or disagree. Tell me about the Spotify logo if you saw it and what you think. And see everyone next time. It was lovely having you, Moses.
Thank
Any
you.
final words?
Oh, what I would say is yes, AI has made design cheaper to start, but again, like I said earlier, we owe it to our users to come up with products that are actually delightful and have the best user experience possible. And right now, and I believe even in the future, getting to that point would require the taste, the judgment, and the skill of an experienced designer.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. Thank you, everyone out there. See you next time at the Opinionated Thoughtbotter. Bye bye.
Bye.